crap.
Dang.
All right, are you rolling?
I'm rolling.
That's good, because the listeners could imagine that we just had one of the best jokes on the show not recorded ever. And I can't repeat it.
It's unfortunate. But, I mean, that was some upper management talk that we were doing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well. All right, welcome to Roast Mortem.
I was going to say, got to save the jokes for the upper management. You got to make them laugh with your PowerPoints.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to start saving the jokes for the big guys.
Yeah.
So with that said, hello, you big guys. Welcome to Roast Mortem, the only show worth quoting on any of your research papers. My name is Tom.
My name is Travis.
No one else is here. It's the upper management.
Upper management's coming down. We're talking to our employees. We're giving you a hype. There's a hype. We want you to see sell, buy, buy.
Right.
At roastmortemcast.com/Patreon. Don't sell, buy.
We've done a really good job of branding things and then not sticking to them. So with that in mind, I'd like to brand these two-person episodes the upper management episodes.
Oh, yeah. And we'll change that. We'll change that to, like, different things over time because we're going to have branding.
Next time it'll be just the two-way docking episode. Who knows?
Two brothers docking alone.
My brother docks him. My other brother docks that brother. You can't beat that combination. I love it. I love Long Island. I can't wait to kill myself on it or leave. Those are my two options.
Yeah, the brothers docking, the slogan is, our penises are kissing and we're exposing each other's information to the internet.
It's that simple. Hello, everyone. I don't know. I feel empty a bit because Connor and Mike, nor guest, is here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying you're not enough man for me, but...
Dude, I've been going to the gym. I got way more man now.
Yeah, you're looking a little more squared
I learned
off.
about what like muscles are, dude. Look at these muscles moving around.
You got a pump, dude. I'll be honest, though. Speaking of gym talk, I guess we can just do combined how our weeks were, like with a normal conversation. You've been doing the LA Fitness thing, right?
Yeah, absolute garbage on Long Island. Because part of How Was Your Week, I was back in New York last weekend. Didn't see you guys because I was busy. I was so busy.
Yeah, you have
running around,
important people to see.
Running around, going upstate, and then when I came back, I was like, oh, let me go to LA Fitness in Comac. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
It's horrible. I hate that place. Planet Fitness was better.
They got a whole planet to expand to.
Well, it was clean. They had the staff was nice. They were like, hey, how you doing, man? And they'd be vacuuming and wiping things down. And here there's 3 people on staff. And they have an office where I guess they anticipate that they're going to be signing up 6 people at any given moment. It's the dumbest thing. You're doing this online. Anyway, it's filthy there. I hate it. But I'm not going to stop going because I've made a commitment, and that's how they get you.
Got to muscle, dude. Got to muscle through it. Yeah, no, I was back in New York. I had my pizzas. I ate Chinese food. I went to gym. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It was really, really cold last week.
Yeah.
I have not experienced, single-digit cold in a long time.
Yeah, West Coast doesn't get that bad, right?
Not where I am, not in Portland. I mean, it goes down, I don't know, lows, maybe 20s sometimes, occasionally. But
it's nothing. I'm from New York. I'm tough.
Yeah.
You're from New York.
Yeah.
That's nothing to you.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but I've acclimated. So I went upstate, and I was just like, oh, it's cold.
Yeah,
the windshield wiper fluid froze up. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, that happened last night. I was driving home. I was like, use a little fluid. Terrible idea. Could have caused a horrible pileup. Didn't.
Especially with a Jeep. That can cause an explosion if it's frozen. You know?
Oh, yeah. Flipping over. The front axle just locks up as soon as the car detects fire. Front axle locks up, front flip every time.
Yeah. Front flip.
It's good. It's good stuff. Let's see. I saw some friends last night. That was fine. They were drunk.
Oh, hell yeah!
And I was not as drunk.
Wait, you didn't brown it?
I'm still trying to behave, man.
Oh,
I really am.
What are you drinking there, though? You're drinking some Spanish juice?
Oh, yeah. This is Guaraná. This is
Antarctica? They made it in Antarctica?
So the biggest drink distributor in Brazil is a company called Antarctica.
Oh, all
and
right.
this is one of their biggest drinks. It's called Guaraná, and it's highly caffeinated.
All right.
It's
made from penguin bile or something?
Something like
Antarctica?
Honestly,
right.
it's the sweetest thing. Like, this is what Latin America is to me. Just too much sugar in liquid. You know what I mean?
And hidden Nazis.
That's how you can spot them out. And that guy didn't put nearly as much sugar as our town deems necessary.
Yeah.
He's obviously a Nazi. He's probably of European descent.
Yeah, he's definitely of your the blue eyes, blonde hair did not give it away.
Yeah. There's this term that I learned. My father-in-law told me. Estúpida gelada. Every beer needs to be served like, I don't know if I'm phrasing it right, but it's basically just like stupid cold.
Stupid cold?
Gelada.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking about a place where they have beer requirements in terms of you have to fill the beer up to a certain point. They get very serious about that.
Awesome. All right, so I assume you're taking me back right now. Who is on the chopping block? What are we doing?
Reeling you in.
The show part.
You in.
The formulaic show part. Where are we going?
Yeah. So, Tom, both you and I have worked in retail together. When we were deli boys, we were delimen.
It was a high-end deli.
It was a high-end deli. I mean, I've also have experience at coffee shops. I've worked other retail areas. You know, getting them groceries at the high-end grocery store I used to work at.
Yeah.
Now, as somebody that works in retail, what is the most, or has worked in retail, what is the most despised phrase you've ever heard from a manager or a boss?
I'm going to guess. Should I guess sincerely?
Sincerely, give me a guess.
The customer's always right.
That's right. The customer is always right.
Yeah.
And today, we are roasting the man who coined that very phrase, the customer is always right, Harry Gordon Selfridge.
Harry Gordon Selfridge. Okay. When you're working in a Long Island upscale supermarket, there's no way that these zanned out, retarded mothers coming in there are right about anything. They are literally hitting cars on the way in.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, like the amount of things that are wrong before they even make it through the door. How does that translate to them being right ever? I don't know. It's been infuriating. It's a good way to die quickly, living by that credo.
I mean, trust me, when I worked at the coffee shop, some people would come in, they'd be like, can I get like 10 packets of sugar and like 8 pumps of syrup in my coffee, please? Like, no, you are not right. You're not right. I'm going to help you by not giving you this.
Not right in your stupid head. Yeah, that's a terrible thing.
So,
but also, I, as a customer, I have used that.
Well, I mean, I've tried it. I've tried to masturbate in the pants section of Macy's, and they were like, "Excuse me, sir, get out."
Well, here's the thing.
Well, I'm always right, dude. I was going to buy these pants. I had to mark them. I had to see how they stain.
Everywhere it matters, it doesn't apply. It's all like surface level shit.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you can't call FiOS and be like, "Can you give me a day that you're going to show up?" And they'll be like, "No."
No, can't do that. You're always right.
Yeah, exactly. No, you are not right. You are just being charged too much. That's would best define this relationship.
So this name, Selfridge, Harry Gordon Selfridge, it may sound foreign to the average American, but if we have any British listeners listening, they know exactly the name Selfridge, because Selfridge was, and in some extent still is, London's premier department store. So talking about a type of business that's definitely going out of fashion very quickly, the department store, the mall.
It is weird that in today's day and age, I kind of missed that.
I know, right?
Yeah, like
It's kinda nice to
I
just-
still hate them to their
Yeah.
core, but
Yeah, so while Americans might not know the name Selfridge, they are certainly aware of the commercial revolution that he started, which was the department store, the shopping mall, even down to simple inventory and floor layouts evolved from this retail magnate. So this guy invented a lot of the ways you it also like going to a mall, right? You know, like you were saying, I miss that. I remember when our local mall changed over. It used to be, you know, you'd go walk into this mall and it smelled like chlorine, and there was like, you know, these shitty fountains, and you had that jazz music, this vaporwave jazz music playing, and now it's all like the shoppies.
yeah, they're really trying to keep a certain. It's a social activity more than anything now, which is like, let's face it, malls. They have a purpose, and it's like you must contain the people during their day. Like the people you don't want in other places in society, send them there. It
Yeah.
does work because you don't have to go there.
Yeah, right? You just put them there.
Yeah.
So you love Walmart? Of course you don't. Selfridges. You know Amazon? Of course you don't. You don't like it. You like it. You don't like it. Of course. It's digital Selfridges. That's what it is. This man revolutionized how we buy things, but he must have been an absolute terror to work for, and which is what we're going to get into.
Awesome. Tell me about this man.
Now, also, Jeff Bezos, I know you're a big fan of the show, and I know you listen to every week. You try to, evolve your business. This should be a tip to you, because Harry Selfridge was like was an equivalent to a billionaire of his time. I mean, this guy was a Jeff Bezos. He started a commercial revolution, but he eventually squandered away all of his money to the point where he died, and his family had barely enough money to pay for a tombstone.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So, without further duties, let's jump right into the man himself, Selfridge.
Yeah, it's been a long duties.
Yeah, it was a long duty. So, as I mentioned, Selfridges was London's biggest department store. So, as you can imagine, our story begins January 11th, 1858, in Ripon, Wisconsin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. I like that
So,
deflection there.
yeah, Harry was a Yankee cheese man, right? Living out in Wisconsin in the 1850s. So when Harry was 5, his father, Robert Oliver Selfridge, at the age of 38, he was also the master of the Ripon Freemason Lodge. So this Robert Oliver enlisted in the Union Army to go fight them damn dirty rebels. Now, sadly, Oliver would not return from the war, leaving behind his wife Lois, Harry, and 2 older brothers. Now, the Civil War took a lot of good men to their grave. It was there's a lot of loss there. This guy was a staple of his community. Robert Oliver Selfridge was not one of those men that died, though. He just never came back to Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's smart, though.
Yeah.
It's always smart to start over again. You can't start over again in 2022. There's too many. You're on paper too much.
Well, so Lois actually found out that Robert survived 5 years later. She just told her son, Harry, oh, your father was a war hero. But it turns out that Robert actually died in a train accident in Minnesota in 1873. And they sent, oh, your husband's dead. Here you go.
He just died recently?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that news?
Yeah.
No, he must be confused. He's been dead since the war.
Yeah, he died in the fields of Gettysburg. No, he died on Amtrak last week.
Yeah, last week he was a hobo. Hobo. I was gonna say something else.
Home to Bow.
Yeah.
So Harry's mom, Lois, was a single mom in a time when it was very hard for women to do anything, really. But lucky for her, she would not have 3 mouths to feed because both of Harry's brothers died young, leaving Harry as an only child.
As luck would have it.
As luck would have it, just one child to feed.
Well, I got Lois, 3 kids worth of food. You got to eat all this?
Right? She went to the Costco run. She's bought shit in bulk. It's like, well, now we can stretch this out a little longer.
I'm just used to buying the bigger packs of hot dogs.
Harry was a big fan of hot dogs. He just used to suck a dog down. So, you buy more for him.
Yeah, of course.
So Lois moved her and Harry to Jackson, Michigan, and she worked as a primary school teacher. Had a pretty successful career for a woman back in the day. I think she became the principal or something like that. But Harry left school when he was 14 years old. And, this is the 1870s. And he had the whole life ahead of him. And he landed a sweet first job at a bank as a junior bookkeeper.
Okay.
Now imagine going into a bank and having a 14-year-old like dealing with a 14-year-old. I thought that was so funny. He's 14 and he's working at a bank.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure to put on kids. I mean, it's just math, really. That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, why not? Harry tried to get into Annapolis Naval Academy, but failed out because he was a dirty four eyes. It also was said that he was a short man. So a lot of times people are like, oh, he was too short to get in. But he was like 5'8".
Short. That's embarrassing for a man to be that short.
Well, he was so embarrassed that throughout his life he used to wear pumps. So he'd add an extra inch. He'd add an extra inch on.
I mean, like men that are under 5'8", the suicide rate is like 100%.
Oh yeah,
it's a scary world for them. So you got to fix it with your shoes. I get it.
Yeah, you have to. There's actually a special internet filter you have to put on when you're under that size, so you don't kill yourself when you go online.
Yeah. You'd be embarrassed.
Yeah. So Harry moved around a little bit. He worked here and there. He was working for an insurance company in Grand Rapids. He was bookkeeping. He also picked up a love for playing poker. He was a very big gambling man. But in 1876, while working at a grocery store, some of his past business connections got him through with an introduction to a man named Marshall Fields in Chicago. Now, Fields was the senior partner of the Fields Lighter and Company, which was Chi-Town's biggest, most successful store at the time.
Cool. Fur coats, right? It's all just fur coats.
Yeah, lots of fur coats, like guns, like old furniture. Like even though it was new furniture, it just looked old instantly.
Yeah, it's like it's like the as is section at an IKEA, but the whole store is that.
Yeah, it went really well. The interview with Mr. Fields, and he brought him on. Now, Fields, this was like a big deal because Fields was like a multi-billionaire. Like this was like meeting like a Jeff Bezos or. A little Michael J. Fox. Does he have a lot of money? I don't know.
He's probably not. Good question, actually. He's got to own a home.
Right, yeah. He definitely owns a home. He might have one of those, like, the floors that move around with him.
Yeah, how they make those spoons that, like, stabilize the Parkinson's? Maybe they just make whole houses like that? So he's constantly on point.
Yes.
The mechanics of that have got to be just maybe all the furniture.
Yeah. So Selfridge quickly climbed the ladder within this department store, and this began his lifelong transformative career in the department store industry. So he's climbing the ladder. Although he said that he never worked the floor, he probably did. But he quickly became Marshall Fields' unofficial marketer / copywriter for all the ads and signs and all that shit.
What year is this now? This is like 1890-ish?
This is 1876.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the 1880s that he's working his way up.
So like 1880s, you can imagine the amount of the verbiage used on those advertisements.
Come all, ladies and he was actually a big Selfridge was a huge fan when he was a kid. He read a biography about P.T. Barnum. So he's a big showman.
Right.
He liked that.
It's like the quiet, like carnival barker. Those are the words they use. Like all the same stuff is just written down. And also, if you remember, this is the same time period as the Calamity Jane expositions that were hitting the newspapers, and which we discovered Calamity was just a word they used all the time. So it's probably like, yeah, we're having Calamity sales days.
Yeah. Fur at a calamity price.
Absolute calamitous prices down here. Anyway, sorry.
Now, Harry Selfridge evolved the department store experience as we know it today, but he did not start department stores, obviously, because, he's working for this Marshall Fields guy. The first department store is often credited to a place called Au Bon Marché, which was founded in 1838 in Paris. Although this department store was kind of like an anomaly, there was not many other stores like Au Bon Marché that popped up in Europe. It was just kind of like just that one.
Okay.
In America, the first department store was often accredited to Alexander Stewart's Marble Palace, which was in New York City and established in 1846. Now, the Marble Palace actually was the premier place where Mary Todd Lincoln, who was a known shopaholic, would go shop, and she actually racked up about a modern-day equivalent to $500,000 worth of credit at the Marble Palace.
Every time Mary Todd Lincoln comes up, I get mad. She's awful. Awful.
Yep. Yeah. So there were those going on. Like I said, like this guy didn't invent the department store. And obviously the Marshall Field Company, the one he's working for, that was established in 1852 in Chicago. But the thing about these new stores popping up in America was that it used to just be like the good old dry goods store, right? You'd walk into a store, there'd be like bags of jerky and shit, and like moose traps, and like that was like your department's like ammo laying out on the floor.
Well, clerks used to do everything for you. The idea of picking up a product and bringing it to the counter is like, that's a new idea.
Well, yeah. This was kind of these department stores were kind of the new thing, like because before that, again, it was these dry goods stores where it was like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, but the dry goods stores, like on top of not having like the floor space for the customers, it was like there was a clerk who got everything for you. So there was no browsing.
Yeah, there wasn't any browsing. It was basically like if you walked into like your local supermarket and there's a place like I never buy shit from this area because I always think it's disgusting, where they have all the nuts and like loose shit where you just like pull the handle and put it in a bag. Dude, it's like if they had that, but there was a guy that just like put it in the bag for you.
Yeah, I mean they just hired a guy whose rent was $4 a month to just do that, and it's fine.
Right. Now, Selfridge thought that his boss, Marshall Fields, was a bit old-fashioned when it came to customer experience. On a trip to New York in 1884, Harry went to Macy's, Lord & Taylor, and the Bloomingdale Brothers shop and noticed, like, the grandiose style with, like, uniformed greeters, and, like, the overall experience that, like, these places were giving. It was like, you weren't really going into the store to necessarily buy. Like, you could browse, like you said. Mm-hmm. I mean, Marshall Fields and Company was still a little bit old school. Remember, it was out in Chicago. It's not like an urban, I mean, it was urban, but not like New York or, these places.
I guess, like, the equivalencies of this isn't a library was tossed around a lot.
Right. Well, that will be an even bigger thing when we go to London, because that was how they operated there. It's kind of funny.
Excellent.
So when Selfridge came back to Chicago with this, he had this attitude of all you have to do is get people in the door and wow them. The sales are second, right? Like, just get them in.
Yeah.
They can walk around, and then maybe they'll buy something. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll find something that they'll come back for next week.
Yeah, at least get the gears a turning.
Yeah. So Harry was also known as, within the store, known as a mile a minute Harry, because he was just constantly pitching shit. He was like moving around all fucking coked up, probably doing actual coke because it was illegal back then.
It's awesome.
It's like, I love these Coca-Colas. They have extra nutrients of vitamin cocaine in them.
I could use that all the time.
Yeah. So first off, Harry's like, our employees are going to be uniformed because, like, I saw that. That was nice having uniformed people show me around the store. Second, they're going to call our customers ma'am and sir. There would be no hustling for sales, no eating, no spitting, and no chewing tobacco on the floor of the store.
That last one's cruel.
Dip.
That's cruel
right?
to take away from these poor addicts.
I mean, I think it would add to my customer experience when I went to GameStop and I'm like, can I get a PS5, please? And the guy just like spittoons a fucking shit of chewing tobacco scum into a old spittoon.
What's not to love?
Yeah.
I'll be back again tomorrow, sir, for more of your fine games and perhaps Ball's energy drink.
So the store, Marshall Fields, had recently been equipped with electric lighting. Remember, electricity is kind of coming in now. And Harry was like, you know what? It's going to cost money, but we're going to leave those lights on in the front windows so we can set up all these fancy little displays. And this was the first kind of instant of window shopping. He kind of invented that with like these cool little displays and people could like see shit and
Window designers, man. That was a big gig. It still is a big gig.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people get that job because it's easy.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you only need like 3 people to do it worldwide.
I feel like anybody that has, besides maybe like graphic designers, anyone that has the name designer in their title has an easy job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
and if you are a designer, you know it's true.
Yeah.
And good for you. Good for you for getting that job.
Exactly. So Harry also implemented the bargain basement, where he converted the basement into a discount sales spot for items that weren't selling or were going out of fashion. He's like, go into the dingy basement. There's tons of rats. There's Chicago, right on the canals. Fight those rats. Get the best deals you can from them rats. Just make sure you pay the rats before you leave.
That's cruel. I mean, was rats a racial slur that he was using?
No, these are actual, like, Splinter from Ninja Turtle rats.
Okay. All right.
They got radioactive chewing tobacco spat on them, and they morphed into an Asian human-sized rat.
Perfectly sensible staffing, if you ask me.
Another thing he added was the afternoon tea room. So, given that this was the 1880s, it was very unusual or oftentimes outright banned for a woman to eat in a restaurant or a bar alone. Like, you just couldn't, like, go get a snack at a restaurant, like cheese and crackers. So he opened this tea room, and it was one of the only places in Chicago that women could freely congregate, thus bringing in more women, thus selling more dresses, and thus feeding and paying for the rents of the giant rats that lived in the bargain basement.
That's genius.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to sell to people, sell to unempowered people. That should be your number one target all the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like this guy so far. I don't really see a problem with this.
So he is a capitalist.
I like
you know how I feel about that.
You have mixed feelings because I don't know, your umbilical cord never got like fully severed. I don't know.
I just imagine working for this guy though. Like, that's the thing is, though, I'm gonna bring this up here. Like, all these things are really smart that I'm mentioning, right? And like, so I was kind of like reading between the lines of this biography I read, which was called "Shopping, Seduction, and Mr. Selfridge" by Linda Woodhead, which was honestly a really good read. I liked it, but like, again, like, just like reading between the lines of this book, I'm like, I can imagine this guy as being the most annoying, micromanaging, brown-nosing middle manager. You know?
Well, Okay, fair enough. But with that being said, I will not disagree with any of that. I don't know enough, but I will say generally, I do not want to meet or work for any of my heroes per se.
That's true.
You know, I need them to flourish, and I need to watch from a distance and reap the benefits, and never be under their control.
You wouldn't want to work with Johnny Sins?
Well, he's not a hero. I view him as a peer.
All right,
So-
would Mike want to work with? He's a peer.
Yeah, he's a peer. So seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. So we will see this like micromanaging and brownnosing and shit ratchet up to 11 once he gets his own store. But keep that in mind. It's kind of what I was reading. You know, I'm very good at reading between the lines. Like, what is this? I can see different things that aren't even there. There's words that appear.
Excellent. This is going to go well, this episode.
So in 1888, Harry took a business trip to Europe for the first time. Marshall Field had buying offices in Germany, England, and France. So he'd set up these little like outposts to find the latest fashions and acquire shit from Europe. So Harry made sure to stop at that Au Bon Marche that I talked about in Paris. He was like, that is really cool. And when Harry returned from this trip, he started to beg Mr. Fields to open up departments of his store in New York, London, and Paris. And Fields was pretty much set for life, like doing his thing in Chicago. So he's like, nah, I'm not about to like drop a whole bunch of money, like set up with all this competition, especially in Paris and New York. There was a lot of competition, not so much in London. Mm-hmm. But I mean, why would he? I mean, Mr. Fields at this point was like, I think in his 60s or something like that. He's like, I don't want to expand. I'm a billionaire. I'm set.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But he's like, how about this? Because, you know, once you put something in Selfridge's mind, he just like went at it and he like obsessed over it. He's like, how about this? I'm going to make you a partner in the company and I will personally pay your buy-in of $200,000 to get into the company. Which is a lot of money. In 1880s money, it's like, you know, almost $1 million or more.
Okay.
So Selfridge's like, hell yeah. Like, I am part of the company now. Like, you know, a partner. He's making the equivalent of $500,000 a year salary. And he was like, it's time to wife up, dude. I'm like in my 30s now and I still haven't married.
I've been shopping and doing everything for women, but not finding a woman. This is a great setup for a rom-com.
Yeah.
Think about it. Selfridges finds love in all of the wrong aisles.
Oh, jeez. Well, he was going down some different aisles because we don't know too much about his personal life. He's 34 at the time that he partners up. We don't know too much about his personal life. It's a bit of a mystery. He had lived with his mother, Lois, in Chicago because, like, again, it was just like the two of them. He lived with his mom his whole life. You know, probably had her own room, you know.
What a privilege.
Assuming, probably.
She slept on the couch.
Yeah. But we do know that there was a very famous whorehouse that was right across the street from Marshall Fields & Co. that used to service a lot of the upper class men that would go let their wife while their wives were shopping.
Who needs a wife?
Yeah.
If that's where you're living and you have someone to make a toast for you, who cares?
Yeah. So we know that Harry was at least visited this place on one occasion, confirmed. But he was probably getting his little weenie and his toes sucked, like a little sucking on the tiny toe of his right foot. That's was his kink.
You know, I do shopping for a living. What do you do for a living?
Shop
dicks. That's nice. Would you like to tug on my peenie while I tell you where I'm buying fur coats from?
Yeah. So then, out of the blue, in 1890, Harry marries Rosalie Buckingham. So Rosalie came, she went by Rosie, so I'm just going to call her Rosie. Rosie came from a well-off family in Chicago. This family owned a substantial part of the city, and when the two of them got married, they gifted the newlyweds an estate in Lake Geneva, which was about 90 miles away from Chicago.
It's nice.
So Rosie lived at this new estate full-time, overseeing construction for this new Tudor-style house, while Harry Selfridge stayed in Chicago working at the department store. Perfect. Keep your wife out of the picture. And actually, I didn't really talk about it too much in the script, but Rosie was actually pretty predominant in, like, real estate. She was, like, one of the first people, especially once the story goes to London, she was, like, wheeling and dealing.
It's not that hard when you have capital.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people talk about real estate accomplishments, and then it's like, if you're not putting your shit on the line ever, it's fucking easy.
Right. So the two of them did blast out 5 children. Unfortunately, the first one was a dud and died shortly after it was popped out.
Yeah,
a little Dudley Selfridge. No, I think they named him Chandler, which you're just asking to die underneath 1 year old when your name is Chandler. Right? Yeah,
this kid has no future.
Yeah, just stomp it out. So the kids were Rosalie, Violet, Gordon Jr., and Beatrice. They will tie back into the story later, but for now, just remember he has kids. Selfridge was always the ladies' man. Now, by that I mean, just like that. So that's my pickup line. I usually walk up to someone and just belch right in their ear from behind.
Belch in their face and throw them to the ground. That's what romance is.
It's real romance.
Real romance.
So Selfridge was a ladies' man, and by that I mean he did this like weird type of sugar daddy cheating. Like, yes, he fucked his side chicks, but he mainly just spent loads and loads of money on them, like charming them, doting over them, almost to the point of like humiliation. Like, these chicks were usually bratty to him. Like, he'd buy them like, really expensive diamonds. They'd be like, oh, this one not very good. Like, you know what I'm talking about? It wasn't even, like, yeah, I'm sure he did have sex with these women, but it wasn't even so much for the sex. It was for, like, the...
It's like the control kind of thing. Like, look what I can do for you kind of mentality, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it was very weird. So this is a common trend throughout his entire life. We're going to touch on a few of these women. The first affair was a showgirl that was in town during the 1900 World's Fair by the name of Isadora Duncan. Who was
We've heard that name before.
I don't know. Have we?
All right, continue. I'm going to look it up real quick, but you continue.
So her stage name was called the California Fawn.
Hot.
Yeah, like a little
Bambi
deer,
baby.
Little Bambi bitch. Now, not so much is known about this affair besides Selfridge did some hard simping, probably some boning. But based on his later affairs, he probably spent way too much money on this chick. But that was kind of the start of this, his long career as a simp sugar daddy.
Okay. I know Isadora Duncan.
Where's she from?
Well, I think she's from Paris. Did you happen to look into how she died?
No.
Okay, great story. She was driving one afternoon in a convertible, and somehow a scarf got caught on something that she was wearing, and I think it strangled her to death, or like popped her head off or something.
Oh, shit.
Hold on here. On September 14th, 1927, tangled in Nice, France, when an enormous silk scarf she was wearing gets tangled in the rear hubcaps of her open car.
Oh!
She was a well-known dancer, though. I think Gab brought her up or something. I don't know, Gab likes to talk about dance all the time. I try to be a good husband, I suppose.
Tom,
but yeah, that one was funny.
That's pretty awesome. That would make a great like metal album. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Your scarf's too big.
Yeah. Pop your head off. That will not be the only hot chick that he boned that has car accidents. So we'll get into that.
All right,
he's got a
continue.
record.
That was a bit of a
no. I love that
history.
fact. Yeah. So in 1903, Selfridge had transformed the Marshall Field Company. And actually, the Marshall Field Company existed up until I think 2005 when Macy's acquired it.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. So it was like a staple of America. So he had transformed the whole store. He pushed the revenue up to nearly $17 million a year, which is about $500 million a year. Selfridge went to Marshall and he's like, yo, I did all this. Now you got to change the store's name to Marshall Field and Selfridge. And Marshall's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
He's getting greedy, man.
Yeah. So he's like, and so Selfridge was like, if you're not going to do that, I quit. So after 25 years at Marshall Field & Co., at the age of 47, Harry Selfridge retired with a big fat payout of company shares.
I mean, he could have just retired, but I have a feeling we have more story here.
Oh, yes, we do. We got a whole nother chapter of this man's life.
Wow.
Okay, so Selfridge did what most people do, rich people do when they retire. They make some really stupid investments and spend a lot of money on garbage.
I mean, some of them do this. Famous people do that.
Yeah.
People who make their fortune through fame do that a lot.
Well, I mean, if you think about the 1890s, there's not many famous people, so he's, I guess, a famous person.
I guess so. Mr. Ridges,
also,
they called him.
Also, they had this this philosophy that you see with a lot of robber barons and like shit like that, like the Carnegies and Vanderbilts, where like they got success through excessive spending. It was like something that like you spent a lot of money, which also made you good at business. It was like a philosophy that this guy Selfridge lived through, and towards the end of his career, you'll see that like that wasn't a thing anymore.
Rough.
So he was actually invited to invest in the White Rock Soda Company. Pretty shitty soda. He turned that one down, actually, because he thought soda making was too close to whiskey distilling.
Oh, is he a teetotaler?
No, he's not a teetotaler, but he doesn't like being associated with, he actually got on board with the cocktail craze when that came out in the 20s. So, but he's like, I don't want to be associated with whiskey distilling. You making soda pops. Ew, lowlifes.
What an idiot.
Then he invested in a gold mining company. Now, keep in mind, this is long after the gold rush, so that just turned out to be a wash. And he did all that while spending tons of money on family trips to the French Riviera and Europe, and probably some unmentioned side pieces that he's sugar daddying for.
Sometimes they're just one-offs.
Sometimes, yeah. Harry's mentor, Marshall Fields, died in 1906 at the age of 71 after catching a cold going golfing during the winter. So apparently that was a thing. They would go golfing during the winter, and in this case, the snow was knee-deep, and they used a red ball, like a special red winterized golf ball, and they're like going golfing in this knee-deep snow.
I want Isadora Duncan's scarf to also have killed him right as he was dying from the cold, just so it hurt more.
We have to be businessmen, go golfing even in the wintertime.
How about we play pool instead, said nobody.
How about we play pool in the sand?
How about you come over? I'll have my butler throw some logs on the fire, and we'll play darts and drink hard brown liquor. No, we have to go golfing in the snow.
So with his mentor dead in 1906, Selfridge is 50 years old. He's blowing through his retirement fund, and he was always a manager, right? He was like one of those things, I always need to manage people. That's just like kind of what he is. Like, you would not want to go to dinner with this guy because he would order the entire table. And be like, he's having clams a la carte, and this boy is going to have a shrimp salad.
He reminds me of that terrible comedian in Aziz Ansari, when he got Me Too'd, and we just found
got
out that
Me Too'd?
he well, yeah, but it was the worst attempting of a Me Too ever. It was rather embarrassing for the person who came. He basically ordered for the woman, and then she continued to sleep with him willingly, and then regretted it after 5 or 6 times, and then wrote a piece for Vanity Fair, and I would say that's when the movement really started going downhill, and that was like day 3. So it's unfortunate when people have to make it about them and ruin a nice cause.
So yeah, he did that to probably women all the time. She will have the Impossible Burger because she's trying to watch her figures.
I'm gonna start doing that. Let me see how fat you are. You're looking fatter than last week, so no eggs for you. He'll have oatmeal for dinner.
So Selfridge was like, fuck it. I'm going to start my own department store. I'm not going to do it in Chicago because there's already too much competition. New York, too much competition. I'm going to go to jolly old London.
All right.
So he picked up his family and he moved to London. Now, keep in mind, this is the early 20th century, so London is still the economic capital of the world, right? This is pre-wars. After, like, America came in, we're like, America got big dick of money, now New York is the best.
Right. America was thriving on a more micro level at this time.
Yeah. But even though London was the economic capital of the world, its retail stores pretty much stuck to the way they had been operating for hundreds of years. So if you remember the episode we did on Beau Brummel, right, when we talked about how there was a store for every single thing. Like, you go to the belt guy, and he'd make you a belt. And then you go to the waistcoat guy, he'd make you the waistcoat.
Right.
You know?
That truly is the way God intended it, by the way.
Well, yeah, because then you get quality products.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, browsing and window shopping were discouraged in London to the point where shop owners would actually hire a dude that would follow you around the store and be like, "Oi, you buying something?" And he'd be like, "No." He'd be like, "Get the fuck out." You know?
It's great.
Yeah. So Selfridge was about to shake things up, where, you know, he wanted to open up a place where browsing was encouraged, much like Marshall Field's, and he called it a temple for retail. Now, Selfridge, as I mentioned, was a showman first and a retailer second, and then way down the line, he's a businessman, right? Like, he's not really a businessman. He's just a showman and a retailer.
Okay. Not good with books.
No. So he decided on a place for this temple of retail, which was on Oxford Street, which was already like a consumer hub, but he picked kind of a further down the road on Oxford Street, a little bit more removed, so he could buy 6 acres of real estate in the heart of London. I mean, That's a lot.
Yeah, that's huge.
The place actually cost 400,000 pounds around the turn of the century. And this buy pissed off the locals already because it knocked down a famous Red Lion pub, which had been standing for hundreds of years. And he's like, "No, we're building this fine architecture."
I mean, how is the architecture in hindsight?
It's an interesting building. So this was the first building in London, or actually first building in England to have steel beam construction.
Okay.
So that meant that the walls were no longer load bearing, so all of the floors could be open and spacious, right? Like when you go to a mall or whatever, or Macy's, everything's open. You can move from one space to another. If without steel beams, everything needs to rely on the walls, so things have to be more closed off.
Right.
The front windows of the store were actually the largest sheets of glass in the world. So remember, he knew the power of window shopping.
Right.
All in all, this building took 2 years to construct, and Harry actually petitioned the London Council to change the tube station from Bond Street to Selfridge's. And they're like, "No, we're not going to do that. You're an idiot. We didn't want you to build this thing."
Yeah, it's too soon of an ask. You know, you could wait 5 years and then do that.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
So the store launched with a huge advertising campaign, the largest, most expensive ad campaign in history up until this point. Newspapers, magazines like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, the Daily Mail, all the London newspapers, carriages, tube stations, all had Selfridges slapped on them.
Awesome.
And with all this fanfare, it actually paid off because on opening day, 90,000 people went into Selfridges.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's quite a feat there.
Now, this wasn't just a store. It was an experience, right? So it was complete with a library. It had like a reading room. You could just go into the library, read for a little bit. It had Otis elevators and escalators, which were pretty groundbreaking at the time. A restaurant.
What is that? Sorry if I'm tangenting too much. What's an Otis elevator?
So Otis is one of the earliest elevator companies. Actually, my building, the first one, my building has an Otis elevator in it. Like, you know the ones that have the
grates that come
like
the accordion grates? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Is that like a trademark from them?
What's that?
Is that like a trademarked thing that they did, the accordion grate?
Well, they were like just the first elevators.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's very scary when you take my elevator up to the 5th floor because it was literally built in 1909 or something.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So on top of these elevators, it had a restaurant with a band that was constantly playing so people could start dancing if they wanted to. It had a rooftop garden / rifle range. So you can go up there, buy a gun, shoot fucking your gun on the range.
Sick.
I had a concierge information room where you could literally ask, it was like a Wikipedia. You could ask somebody any question, like even as simple as like, where is Lord Dukington going to be tonight? And like somebody would like figure it out, like call people, be like, oh, Dukington boy is going to be at the local shindig pub.
Would you pay for that information, or was it more of like a...
I'm pretty sure you could just go in there because that was like part of the draw of getting people into the store.
Wow. I really like this guy. I really like shopping now.
Yeah. Customers could not only just buy clothes, they could book tickets to shows, to cruise liners across the Atlantic. There were salons, hairstylists. You could buy furniture. Every desk was equipped with like every checkout counter was equipped with a telephone, which was, again, new tech. And in the coming years, the building, like within the next 10 years, the building would be equipped with the first electronic newsreel. So, you know, those like ticker tape things that you see that usually has like the stock market and shit running on there. It had one of those. They put an ice rink on the roof, and people could eventually buy cars, planes, and yachts at Selfridges.
Damn, man. This is neat, actually.
It is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. Wow, I miss the malls now.
I know,
real
right?
Places. Yeah, now I'm gonna stay home though because Bezos told me to, but I'll say it out loud. I miss the other stuff.
So speaking of Bezos, there was almost like a proto Amazon service going on here because obviously a lot of these people, some of them probably had cars at this point. They were just coming out, but
sure.
Most people would just walk to this place or be driven. So the store was equipped with a fleet of drivers and deliverers that you'd basically walk into the store, make like a checklist of what you wanted, like get fitted, and then they would either tailor it or just like bundle it all together and then deliver it to your house.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't see how this could go wrong.
All right, so you might be able, okay, we're going to dive a little bit more into Selfridge himself, right? So this is why I think he's just, like, would be a nightmare to work for. Now, it's pretty amazing what he did, but let's talk about him. So I think he was a complete micromanager. His employees called him simply the chief, right? And every morning he would get dressed in a morning suit, when, like, morning suits are like what you think of that has like the tails and shit in the back, like a conductor, like you'd see at like a really formal wedding, right? With like a top hat.
Has coattails?
Yeah.
That's a morning suit has coattails on it, like Groucho Marx?
Yeah, for whatever reason, that's called a morning suit.
That is odd.
So he dressed up in this morning suit, complete with a top hat. And he would spend the hour before the store opened walking around the store, inspecting the employees and their stations. If he found any dust on any of the surfaces during his walk, he would simply initial HGS on it. And if it was still there later in the day, somebody probably got fired. Like, he wouldn't tell anyone. He'd just write HGS in the dust and then fire you.
I would do that, too. I like that model.
Selfridge would never rage publicly. What he would do was he'd see something, not say anything, then the employee would receive a yellow slip calling them to his office where he would explode on them.
Sports.
Yeah.
It's, you got carded, son.
Yeah, he got carded. So Selfridge, after he made this morning hour-long routine inspecting all of his employees, he would stand in front of the main clock of Selfridge's and do breathing exercises. He'd sit there and...
With the top hat on still?
Yeah, yeah, with the top hat on. And when the clock chimed 9 a.m., there was a fanfare of actual trumpet players that signaled that the store was open.
Awesome. Wow. I don't wake up till like 9:30, so
yeah,
I would never see it, but wow.
Do you do your breathing exercises in your morning suit?
I have to.
Yeah.
My morning suit, it doesn't have coattails. I'm just naked. My apartment's very hot.
Yeah. My sources explain a lot about how these employees were like really proud to work at Selfridges, right? Like, and I feel like that's something that maybe England lost, because I remember when James came over, our buddy James, he was on one of our shows at some point, but like he was like, why does this restaurant have like proudly serving Coca-Cola on it? You know what I mean? Like, there's no real pride in retail. Like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, no, you won't actually find that in the personalities, but you see that word all the time.
Right.
Like, no one gives a shit. Like, anyone who actually has any stock in the Coke versus Pepsi game, they're fucking retarded. So you're just catering to that person. Like, and there's not even that many who honestly care. So, but you will see that in other instances too. Yeah, proudly doing this. We're proudly open. We're proudly open on New Year's Eve till 1:30 in the morning. Our Taco Bell here. So
these employees are often described as being proud to work there. Now, I think the idea is that, like, the idea of getting exploited for a lower wage than competitors in London, being micromanaged by a boss, was just something that was new and fresh at the time. People were excited to be exploited and treated like shit, you know?
Yeah, you work. It's like the people who do anything to work at Disney. Or in the music industry. I've actually experienced that myself. The amount of like pride you get instilled by anyone you're working for. That's all bullshit while they rip you off.
Right. Selfridge did offer some perks to the employees. Like, there was a in-store dentist that would fix the workers' teeth, but that really wasn't for the employee. It was more of Selfridge, like, didn't want fucking people with rotten teeth trying to sell, I don't know, the latest toothbrush.
And I mean, like, come on, there's the English layup right there. The alley-oop. Right? Get your shit together, England, you weird bucktooth, strange chaps.
So while I feel that these biographies and historians really glorified working at Selfridge, there's an actual interview that I found from 2013 of this guy. He's 102 years old, and he worked at Selfridge with Harry Selfridge himself.
Awesome.
And I wanted you to listen, just this quick little clip of him describing whether or not he was proud, and we'll play it for you as well, whether or not he was proud to work at Selfridge. Okay. Copy that.
Were you proud to work at Selfridges?
It was a job, you know.
I think with my father being 102, he's probably...
Well, it's a job, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a job, isn't it? He's like, I don't know. He fucking worked at a goddamn store. Like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, he didn't seem that thrilled, to be honest.
No. It's just like, I feel like because it's old, people are like, oh, they were so fucking proud. He's like, I don't know. I sold. And in that whole interview, he talks about how he used to sell like tweeds and fabrics for suits, and he's like, I don't know, this is what I did before I went to the war or whatever.
Yeah, I get, it must be a little infuriating. Like, oh yeah, we want to interview you for being 102. Oh yeah, there's so much in my life to tell about. Yeah, we just want to ask about where you used to work. It was a Macy's-like building where you used to play a trumpet at people. He's like, that was what I did back then. All right, thanks. Go die now. Like, really? Really? Don't interview people who are 102 about a job they didn't care about.
They don't know where they are anymore anyway.
Yeah. He doesn't have any more time left, and you're wasting it asking him about a job he hated. And he's being nice. He's so English. Old-time English. He's going to be polite. Yeah. If he was 70s English, he'd probably be like, oh, fuck that place.
Yeah. So Selfridge also employed a bunch of women. He was very progressive. Unfortunately, in the beginning, most of them worked in the sweatshops on the top floor, stitching together custom suits and dresses.
It's a culture thing, all right?
Yeah, but eventually he expanded his exploitation of his workers to the retail floor. So he had this famous group of women that operated the said Otis elevators as bellhops. They were always really hot and smoking. Like, come on in the elevator.
Step inside of me.
Yeah, let me close this gate.
So smooth. The finest in technology. It's going to fall down. And I'm erect.
And obviously, in the upcoming wars, World War I and World War II, Selfridge would be forced to use women in more customer-facing roles because all the men were all fighting them Germans.
Yeah, all the men were doing work.
So as I mentioned, Selfridge's store was more of a spectacle than a retailer, right? Harry constantly decorated it for every coronation, jubilee, attracting all sorts of royalty and people in high places. People like Winston Churchill and his mother, Oscar Wilde, Tallulah Bankhead, Greta Garbo. All these people would come into Selfridge's, and the very famous Charlie Chaplin shop there. People we've roasted.
Yeah, sounds good.
So Harry was also, in very a Bezos, Elon manner, Harry was big into aviation, which was cutting edge at the time. So in 1909, a guy by the name of Louis Beltrot became the first person to fly across the English Channel. And Selfridge struck a deal with him to display his plane in Selfridge's. Now, this move attracted nearly 100,000 people to see this flying machine.
It's crazy, too, because that's something you can technically swim. So, like, in modern context, that's practice.
Yeah,
for an actual flight.
But this is world news, right? This guy flying across the channel.
It's just a context oddity, if you would.
Harry was actually the first person ever to charter a commercial flight when he flew from London to Dublin for a business meeting. And he said that flight was the way businessmen would conduct business in the future. And he was absolutely right.
Good idea.
Another invention that Harry showed off in his store was the television. So in 1925, Scottish inventor John Bard was having trouble showing off his new invention called the television, which at the time it didn't really show pictures as much as it showed like silhouettes of like spooky ghost people on this like tiny little screen.
It's not a real television. That was a Farnsworth who did an actual television.
Well, but this guy John Bard was like, he was the first person to like actually make things move on a screen like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it? Like, what is you're just staring at a light bulb. With some flies and moths in front of it, and then projected. It's not technology, even, really.
Well, Harry was impressed by these moths in the light bulb. And
we could see the sports game from here.
Yeah. He paid this guy £3,000 to exhibit his new machine to the masses. Harry pushed televisions really hard as a new way to advertise. And as the technology evolved, the BBC would actually started broadcasting TV as early as the late 1930s, which I didn't know. And then the war happened and they stopped their signals because the war was going on.
Yeah. Everyone had to sell their TVs.
Yeah.
I just made that up. I don't know.
To kill Nazis.
Yeah.
They turned the TVs into tiny bullets.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So another interesting advancement that happened at Selfridges was, so for the first few decades of the 20th century, you know, when you think of a department store or a mall, a lot of times you think about fashion, right? You think about makeup. But cosmetics, things like lipstick or blush, was often seen as whorish and scandalous. Now, Selfridge sold lipstick and blush in the underwear department, but it was hidden behind the counter. So you, like, needed to know someone to, like, get lipstick. You know, you'd be like, oh, you got that little lipstick I could put on it?
Hey, excuse me, I'm a whore. And I was wondering if you had anything that, like, I could use on my lips to let everyone know that I'm a whore.
Yeah.
Got you covered. Welcome to Selfridges. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I just got a trumpet blown in my face as I walked in the door. I'm still a whore, but I can't hear now. I'm a deaf whore.
Deaf whore. But by the 1920s, there was a big explosion of women's makeup. Pretty soon, it was the fashion for a woman to just whip out a compact and start painting her face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Selfridge was actually the first department store to have a dedicated cosmetics department, complete with a stylist that would whore you on up.
What a sick religion that is still happening now.
So, as you can imagine, Harry was absolutely loaded. Him and his family were living in a massive English estate called Highcliffe Castle. I mean, it looks like, you know, something out of Downton Abbey or whatever that is. Like, you know, they had servants, and he's basically an American lord, right? Like, he's an American guy. He's pretending to be like this lord or duke. He's dressing like it. He's talking like it.
What is a duke other than a guy who has money? Like, end of day. They separated. They put these partitions in, but it's just money.
Yeah, that's true.
And making sure you have a driveway with pebbles on your lawn. That's every English estate is just like a path of pebbles to a big square building.
See, but Harry, like the fact that you're saying that, I feel like it makes it more sad. He says, like, he has all this money. He probably has more money than half the dukes.
Probably.
But he can't. His prestige needs to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pride fucking with you. I think that was from the movie
Stuart Little,
Spy Kids. Oh, same page.
Yeah. Harry actually bought himself some property. I forgot where it exactly was. I didn't write it down, but he bought this big property where he was going to build himself his own medieval castle. Awesome. That he never got around to doing. But there was like this whole big debacle where like it was like a Iron Age British archaeological site, and Harry was like, "I don't give a fuck. I'm going to build my castle here." And like the historical society was like, "No, we need to excavate." And like he never built this castle, but he wanted to build a giant medieval castle.
Awesome.
He also wanted to add this like massive tower to the Selfridge building, and I'm going to show you how stupid this looks. And the town council shot him down, and they're like, "No, is this supposed to be your dick, or like what's going on here?"
Let me see it. I'm curious.
Yeah. So I didn't find the actual picture, but I just thought of that. Selfridge.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's just a dick.
This is a big old cock. Yeah.
Why didn't they let him build that?
Well, that's what the building looks like now. It's just basically the bottom part of that sketch.
Yeah. Huh. They should have let him
like-
build that. That would have been cool. Because Big Ben would have had someone to talk to. Wink, wink.
Big Ben would have had someone to dock on.
Yeah, that's important.
All right. So on top of these weird construction projects he had, with all this money came extravagant spending. Like, he bought the original Medici bookkeeping books from, like, the 16th century that he kept in his office. You know, just because, why not? Just big swinging dick.
Yeah, why not?
Selfridge fashioned himself as a retail god, and he published a book called The Romance of Commerce in 1918. Of course, this was ghostwritten because, I mean, there's a man that didn't even graduate regular school. But he compares himself to the Medicis, Jacob Fugger, who he roasted, the East Indian Company. Just super self-aggrandizement, right? Like, he's just like everyone. And this is where he penned "The Customer is Always Right" in this book.
Back to
there's also some
like
other. Yeah, there's also some other big brain quotes that I just wanted to read off here because I thought they were really stupid.
Sure.
People will sit up and take notice of you if you sit up and take notice of what makes them sit up and take notice. And then these ones are more like synergy cringy shit, right? Like, a boss drives men, a leader coaches them. The boss depends on authority, the leader on goodwill. Oh. A boss says I, a leader says we.
Oh, God. I want,
Right.
you know, that's some real gamer word shit.
Yeah, this is this is like some
bad.
corporate ass bullshit, right? You know? Like, here's another one. The boss says go, a leader says let's go.
Well, thanks for listening to the show, everyone. I think I just died. Why do these people have so much money?
I don't know.
Why do
I
people
want
who
that
talk
much
like
money.
this have money? They should be shot in the street. People who say things like that.
Tom, see, you're changing your tune now. You're like, I like this guy. I like the cut of his jibs.
I did like it, and then he opened his mouth. I like what he was doing. I liked how he was making a carnival of buying furniture. I liked that part of what he was doing. And then as soon as he talks to people, I didn't even mind that he was nitpicky towards his dirty employees with their terrible teeth. But as soon as you start talking like this about generals, you're dead. You're dead to me. Someone should murder this guy. He's a witch.
He's a witch. So with all this ego came and money came a lot of these side pieces I talked about. His wife actually died, I think, in 1918, so he's technically a widower type of thing. But like these side pieces have always existed. Just now he could just like do it in public and have like he was always seen with like a hot blonde or some like showgirl around his arm type of thing.
See what happens when you do real estate and you get good at it? You get an early grave.
Yeah. I mean, what comes to mind is that picture. I keep going back to Bezos, but that new picture of him where he's got whatever that lady on his arm and he looks all like have you seen that? He looks like all like fucking plastic surgery'd out.
It's really strange what people will do, like when they're not told that their ideas are stupid, or when they don't fear someone like Jeff Bezos, because he has no one to fear right now. He's basically a Saudi prince on crack.
It's true.
He's just doing whatever. You can't tell him, like, no one in his life can tell him, maybe you should reconsider that 70th Botox injection this afternoon because your head looks plastic. You look like a shift knob.
He does.
It's weird. And that bimbo he's with, too, is like, she's somewhere between, like the Hulk and Cher.
Well, I think he just like birthed her in like a test tube or something, like at the fulfillment center, right? He just like grew her out of a pipette.
Yeah, I do find her oddly attractive, but I know that if I saw her in person, it would kind of look like I'm experiencing Uncanny Valley in the real world.
Yeah, it's like Lara Croft from like PlayStation 1 time.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's got to be something like eerily too symmetrical about people like that. Like you don't look, you're gonna melt.
You're gonna
Watch out
melt.
for the sun.
Oh no, my girlfriend cannot walk on stage. She will melt.
I paid a lot of money for. I paid a lot of money, so I'm not going to
I
have
paid
her
a lot
melt.
of money. I paid a lot of money growing. I mean, I paid a lot of money towards her.
Yeah, just add her, get hotter. I don't care how.
So, Harry was always seen with these like young showgirls, and they always introduced, even though he was like a widow now or whatever, like he was a free man.
Yeah.
He always introduced them as a family friend. My family friend, this nice broad. She's 21 years old. I'm 56.
That's a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I prefer what Jeff Bezos is doing. He's just like, look at what I put my cock into.
Right. Well, meanwhile, these family friends were probably like, having old man's quivering balls inserted into their anus, that type of thing.
That's fine. Like, they're not slaves. They can walk away, but money is very alluring to people.
Well, the thing is it was more like Selfridge was like a slave to them because, like I mentioned, these are like weird sugar daddy relationships, right? So, like, he would just spend on these young women, and like they'd be so bratty and like humiliate him in public. But like he was spending millions of pounds and dollars on these women, like crazy amounts of money.
That's fun. That's good.
And now I'm sure there were many nights where he just got straight up cucked because these young broads loved to party, and it was often said that Selfridge would be at these this was the Roaring 20s. We're in that time period where people raged all night. They're doing blow, they're
Orgies
drinking,
and crap, and
shit like that. And like there were a few occasions where they'd see like Selfridge, this like old man with white hair, like sitting at these parties, like, oh, this is lovely. Like while like his main side piece is getting like railed out, like blowing lines off the table. He's like, oh, I love this. Is a jolly time.
Well, this is probably pre-Rhino 69.
Oh yeah,
it's like once you're tapped out, you're tapped out. That was the past. Now you can fuck until the last breath.
Well, yeah. Well, back then they used the dowel technique. They inserted piece of balsa wood into the shaft. They sounded it in.
Slowly dissolved afterwards. So only, like stitches, like your dog's stitches.
He had the cone on. Oh no! Oh, touch it.
I'm behaving and I'm shoving the dowel in. It hurts, but I'll watch and pay lots of money for this.
So honestly, there's too many broads to go into all of them, but we're going to talk about the most famous affair, and that was him and the Dolly sisters, plural.
Nice. Hey, really nice.
Really nice.
Really nice.
Really nice.
That's cool as hell. Also nice.
Tom, and guess what? You know what makes it even cooler?
What?
Identical twins, bruh.
Wait a second. Are you telling me these two broads came out and they just fell into this guy's lap?
They fell deeply in love with him emotionally.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
That's good.
Three hearts connected as one.
Continue. Just continue.
So in 1921, Harry met the Dolly sisters at the Kit Kat Club in London. The sisters, Jenny and Rosie, were, as I mentioned, identical twins. They were both 28 at the time. He was, I think, in his 60s or late 50s. Originally, they were from Hungary, but they moved to America when they were 14 and quickly got picked up by the Ziegfeld Follies group, which I feel like we've mentioned before. Actually, my great-grandmother was part of the Ziegfeld Follies, and that was like a burlesque traveling group of like hot women that would like dance on stage and like fuck people. And
it's awesome. That's just awesome.
Yeah. So these two girls had been famous for a while now, since the turn of the century. And Harry met them at this club. And then after they met, Harry dumped, like I said, millions, and I'm not exaggerating, millions of pounds on these women. He'd often take, the three of them would often take Harry's yacht, the Conqueror, to Monte Carlo to play baccarat, which I've never understood how to play baccarat. But
No, and I've never actually gone anywhere to play anything.
no, you went to the casino with us, didn't you? You were there.
I was there to drink.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm not much of a gambler. Like, I don't really get the appeal. I like drinking and yelling, and that's what I like. I like going to casinos for that reason. And I like
drinking and yelling.
Yeah, I'm never on the floor. Like, I have no problem walking into a casino and going, I'm only spending $500 on gambling here and losing that in the first 20 minutes. I don't care. Like, it's already spent.
Right. So he also let's mention that he names his yacht the Conqueror, which come on.
Well, that's probably what he wanted to name the tower. That looked like a giant penis. That some would debate contained a dowel section.
There's one steel beam construction that goes right down the middle.
Well, here's the thing. It's all steel beam except right in the center. It's wood. It's round wood.
Balsa.
We go to Home Depot. We ask them for the roundest, longest wood. Treated with semen.
So these girls and him are going to Monte Carlo. They're playing baccarat, high roller tables. Now the women gambled off of Harry's money and anyone else's money they could get their hands of. What they like to do is they'd like to take off all their jewels and be like, I lost it all. And then like get some guy to buy them more fucking rounds or whatever, get them more chips. Awesome. And then they put all the jewels back on.
Of course. What are they going to do, sniff around?
Yeah.
You can't fool me, missy. I'm blind, and I have my fine material sniffing dog on me. And he is looking right up that ass.
Yeah. If they lost Harry's money, they lost Harry's money. If they won, they kept the winnings. Like, they didn't give him back any money. It was just like, these are ours now.
Of course. They're children going to Disneyland.
Yeah. So talking about jewels, the Dolly sisters were so decked out that... and these were jewels that Harry mainly bought for them, that it was said that they had diamond bracelets that would go from their wrists to their elbows. Like, that's how many, like, bracelets they had on.
So gauntlets.
Like, they had, gauntlets and, like, Mr. T's amount of, like, necklaces. All jewels, pearls, like, expensive shit.
They started black metal by accident. This is what black metal people would wear if they had money. None of them do.
These Dolly sisters were like famous for having this much jewelry on. Like, had more jewelry than nobility did. Like, these like kings and queens of small countries be like, holy shit! Like, we're going to play some poker or baccarat in Monte Carlo, and they'd see these chicks like decked out in more money than like nobility.
It's like worse than anything I've ever heard, really. Because it's like, what did they do for all of that? Well, they're hot and they're sisters.
Yeah.
But what do they do? Like, they're famous. They're hot and they're sisters. You don't understand.
It's really like Kardashians.
Hot. Yeah, but that even seems like more of a slow burn. Like, they're in their 20s. They're coming from Hungary. They don't have a Kris Kardashian who's like generationally destroying their morals, which I'm totally in favor of, by the way. It's not about it's about making money. It's just how did they do it? Astonishing. And 20 years old and you're covered in pounds and pounds of diamonds.
Yeah. So they would just sit there at these tables, they'd chain smoke cigarettes and like gamble away all of Harry's money. All while, like, they would attract crowds or people just watch them play and, like, watch them lose money. Like, I would probably watch and be like, holy shit. Like, you just, like, put 20 grand down on whatever hand you're playing. Like, that's fucking insane. Like, this is an
Twitch.
idiot.
Why don't people do that on Twitch? Why don't
Yeah.
people do that on Twitch? Just go play, like, go to a casino and stream it.
IRL streams. I mean, those are, like, that's, like, the shittiest. I've watched this whole thing on IRL streams where, like, these people are like just terrible human beings. But anyway.
How so? I don't understand.
Oh, like what they do is they have like people, like some of them wear backpacks where like their comments are like announced off of the backpack. So,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
just,
I've
like,
seen a few
racial
of those.
slurs, but then also just like dictating like what they do. Like I want you to go touch that girl's butt, and then like they do it and like assault someone. And there's this one guy that got fucking stabbed because he was like calling someone the N-word, and the guy like turned around and fucking stabbed him.
I'll be honest. We should probably have more of that. If you're willing to risk your body while a machine on your back yells about the Jews taking over and all other things of sorts, and for fuck's sake, have you go in there, rob a bank. Why not? We're all curious. We want to see it. There's several things I could write a whole list right now of things I would never do but would love to see.
You gotta get into the IRL world.
Guess so. That's where my money's going. You're going to see me next week. I'm going to be cracked out. I don't sleep anymore. I tell this one guy named Gerard to go fucking slap the people who work at McDonald's.
All right. So, Rosie of the sisters, Rosie eventually got married to some duke or something like that. Just for a little bit. They divorced, obviously, quickly. But Jenny remained with Harry as a side piece until 1933, when Harry asked her to marry him. Now, shortly after this, Jenny crashed her car into a tree in Bordeaux, probably drunk, fractured her skull, fucked up her face, and then Harry paid for expensive Botox or expensive plastic surgery out of his own wallet, and also her selling off these jewels just to make her look pretty again. But Jenny quickly realized that there were more rich people and better plastic surgeons in Hollywood because this is the 1930s. So she just straight up leaves Harry Selfridge, goes to Hollywood.
Hey, I used to be hot. Promise. Just get me like 2 appointments with this guy. I got his number.
Yeah.
Just call him. And then you can bang me all you want.
Yeah, so she moves back there, and she only lasts there a few more years because she would hang herself with a sash from her dress from a shower curtain after a night of partying.
All right. Rest in peace or something. I don't know.
Nah, don't even rest in peace. Who cares?
I don't. I don't. You know, it's formality, maybe.
Now, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, Harry went from one of the richest people in the world to barely being able to afford a tombstone for his family, barely affording a tombstone for his own grave. Harry was never a businessman. He was an ideas man. He was a showman. So during the 30s, Harry was encouraged to make a trust for Selfridges. Now, this basically meant that Harry would get more money, like he would separate the man from the business, right? But now the company had a board, right? So like a board of people that have invested into the Selfridges trust.
Gotcha.
And second to Selfridge on this board was Mr. A.H. Holmes, who represented Prudential Assurance Company. We know Prudential.
We do? Yeah, they're around.
They're still around. Now, Holmes had just sat by and watched this like crazed spending from Harry. Harry had actually borrowed £150,000 from the company to supplement his spending at one point. He was like, oh, yeah, I don't have enough right now. I'll just take it out of the company.
Jeez.
There was also a few like failed events that Harry had done. There was some, I think it was the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, actually, where he had decked it out in like all this British shit, and like people were like, this is kind of gaudy coming from this like American shit. He's like, oh, look, we have a section that sells pants, and it says crumpets, because you guys like those, right? Dude, here's one that says Harry Potter. You could go into Dumbledorst.
Yes. Dumbledorst. My favorite historical figure.
Yeah. So there was a few like failed. Obviously these big events where you like decorate the store, like it cost a lot of money, and when it failed, it wasted a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now in 1939, Harry officially became a British citizen. He was nationalized. Now there's some speculation why he decided to become a British citizen so late in life. I mean, he was in his 80s at this point. First of all, was that the U.S. government had made some new tax law about, U.S. citizens making money overseas and having them to pay tax back to the U.S. government. So they think that the reason why he became a British citizen was to avoid paying tax to the U.S. government.
What a fucking grift.
Unfortunately, this tax evasion backfired because now that he was a citizen of the UK, he owed £150,000 in back taxes. So he was like, I'm not going to pay the U.S. government a single dime of my monies. And then I'm going to come UK. And then they were like, oh, well, you owe us all this money because you've been making all this money in our country.
Right. If you can keep this in mind, that every government is a criminal organization, you can understand the world better. And it just depends on how bad they are. You know, pick your poison.
Yeah, but you got to pay off the criminals, right?
That's the idea. Like, you have to get in bed. Like, if he was smart and was a businessman, he would be using that capital to try to pass legislation to make certain types of stores not have to pay a certain amount of money. Like, that's
right.
That's, you make these shady things legal. It's not about, like, evasion. Like, every rich person, like when people talk about rich people not paying their taxes, it's like, that's the tax law. Every single one of these rich people is paying their taxes.
Yeah.
Like,
there are all these loopholes.
Exactly. Everyone's doing, every billionaire in this country, there's nothing the IRS could do about them. Because they're paying the fucking IRS and legislation to make rules and loopholes for them. So people who say, yeah, we need a stronger IRS, you're out of your fucking mind.
No.
You don't need a stronger IRS. You need to change laws. And before that happens, no IRS.
Right. So it also didn't help. On top of this, he owes $150,000 to his own company. He owes £150,000 to his own company, £250,000 to the UK government. On top of that, Harry's son, Gordon Jr., was often in magazines being called a playboy, was off spending money left and right on the company's dollars. And he was buying planes. He actually crashed his plane in Spain and walked away from it. Like, this kid was just a fucking disaster. Shit. Another thing, I didn't mention this when we talked about Harry's side pieces, but another part of this, you could spend anything, was he'd allow these women to go into the store, Selfridge's, buy whatever they want and put it on his tab. So these women would like rack up fucking money. They'd walk around the store like royalty, like everyone had to kiss their ass.
Oh, and a couple just, Mary Lincoln Todds?
Yeah.
Except our good looking?
Ugly first lady?
Yeah. Did you know that Abraham Lincoln married Mr. Toad from Mr. Toad's Wild Adventure?
Now, the wow factor that the employees got, or apparent wow factor of like this pride of working at Selfridges, was starting to wear out because many longtime employees were quitting and moving to competitors like Harrods or the new department store on the block, Marks and Spencer's, which is also around today. Marks and Spencer's actually offered better wages, pension, and benefits. So, like, why the fuck would you work at Selfridges?
Yeah, good point. So, well, he's got a dentist, so my teeth are better.
Yeah, I get yelled at every day by a maniac that brings his broads in and they get to abuse me.
He comes in at 8:30 in the morning and starts breathing heavy in a hat and coattails.
Yeah.
I like him.
With the board cracking down on spending, smooth brain Gordon Jr., his son, devised a plan with H.A. Holmes to remove his now 84-year-old father from the business.
Good. Kill him.
Basically, the board voted in 1940 to remove Harry Selfridge from the business. He was given a meager pension of £4,000 pension a year, and the honorary title of president with his own office in the building. So we're like, you're such a good boy, you're going to be president, you could still get your office.
Can I still come in and do my breathing exercises? No. You don't have a key. You don't have a key to this place.
He was allowed. He was allowed to come in, do his breathing exercises, do all this shit. Holmes remember, Gordon Jr. had devised this plan. He was expecting to take over his father's position. Holmes quickly turned around and fired Gordon. And Gordon would eventually work for Sears down the line. He moved back to America and worked for Sears in Chicago.
Was he the guy who decided that Sears should sell homes to outdo everything they had at Selfridge's?
No, that was before, because Harry was born in 1900, so I think the Holmes thing went until around the 40s-ish.
I think it was a little later.
Earlier.
I think
Really?
you could buy a Sears home up until the 60s.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know it started earlier, so I don't think it was.
Yeah, I don't know when it
Gordon
started.
Jr., but yeah. Yeah, as I mentioned, so Harry still came into the store every day and operated business as usual. He'd still do his same fucking thing, except now he wasn't getting paid. He'd still sit there, do breathing exercises, yell at people, and write his initials in dust.
Awesome.
Now, a bunch of the employees were actually still listening to Harry over their new board supervisors. So that was not very good with the board. And on top of that, Harry was also thinking about opening up another business at the age of 84 across the street, like his own little independent shop. The board quickly squashed this by kicking Harry out of the building and removing his title of president and decreasing his pension even further. So I
Make
think
him
about
homeless.
£1,000.
He deserves nothing. He's a dinosaur in the retail industry. Kill him.
So Harry went from living in one of the biggest estates in England to a small rented 2-bedroom flat. He still wore his Edwardian morning coat and suit and his top hat. Now it was all ratty and untailored. And this 80-year-old would show up at Selfridge's from time to time and inspect the workers who had no idea who he was. He'd just show up and oh, that's great. You're doing a good job. And one time he looked so downtrodden and he was screaming and yelling. He was deaf too, so he couldn't hear anything.
Always
and he's
screaming,
out there.
man.
He's out there in the 40s in a top hat and just, people don't wear top hats in the 40s. That he actually got arrested for being a vagabond. That he was that broke outside of his own store.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty funny, actually. We should do that more.
Yeah.
Just put him in jail.
Exactly.
It's a form of home.
I mean,
Addressing
to
the
be honest,
problem.
you get a lot of money from jail. A lot of free food.
Taller jails.
So the building Selfridge's was not spared from the London bombings in World War II. The upper floors were hit, and a fire destroyed most of the offices, including a huge piece of glass that Harry had. Basically, anyone famous that came in, like the Churchill, these people I mentioned, the Churchills, Charlie Chaplin, Greta Garbo, kings, queens, dukes, duchesses, he would all have their autograph etched on this piece of glass. So there was hundreds of autographs, and that glass was destroyed when the Nazis bombed the roof.
What a shame. I would love to have a piece of that glass.
Yeah, let me get a piece of glass.
Yeah. I'm just going to have a sand and claim it's part of that.
So Harry lived to the ripe old age of 91. According to the book I read. On Wikipedia, I think it put him at 87 or something, but he was one of those people that probably lied about his age, so it's probably hard to actually...
We don't care. It's fine. No one cares about this guy.
He's died an old man, so he died at the age of 91 on May 8th, 1947 of bronchial pneumonia. He had once been a multimillionaire, the modern equivalent to a billionaire. And when he died, he only had a few £1,000s left. And here is a picture. You would think, right, you've walked through, many a cemetery, and you would think that this guy would have one of those big, mausoleums or something like that.
Well, based on what you told me, I'm assuming the picture you're going to show me is just a pet rock with his name on it. People will look at you if you know what they're looking at while they look at you, so make sure to look at them. What was that quote you said earlier that made me want to kill myself?
Oh yeah. Make sure you like sit up and notice when people sit up and notice, and you will sit up and notice or something.
Make sure that you hit children who are playing around your car because they are the future, and we have to stop that immediately.
They are the dreamers.
Yeah. Make sure to go very fast in school zones. Make sure to brush your teeth every morning so they don't brush you.
So one little interesting fact about Harry's lineage is that Harry's grandson, a guy named Oliver Selfridge, who was born in 1926, so he would have known his grandfather, is often called the father of machine perception and basically pioneered artificial intelligence. He wrote this paper called Pandemonium in 1959 that basically is like, if you're going into artificial intelligence today, like you study this dude, which is kind of weird.
Huh, interesting.
And he died in 2008, by the way, that guy.
I saw a picture of him, this Oliver, and he just looked like he was crying in it.
Oh, yeah, his eyes were all goopy.
Yeah, why is his eyes, this guy, he knows how to make the future happen and how to tell Amazon that you need to buy another couch even though you just bought one.
It's probably because whenever he walks around, he sees phones and they're like screaming out in pain because they're like, they don't have eyes and ears, right? Like,
yeah,
all these machines are so smart and we just don't take care of them.
He's doing some Harlan Ellison stuff, just crying. They're gonna get you. They're gonna get you back. I'm calling it quits.
So one more closing thought. I actually, when I lived in the UK, I went to Selfridges in Manchester because Selfridges was acquired by a few other companies. I think it might have been bought out by Macy's at some point. But they opened up, and this wasn't a historic location one, by the way, in Manchester. I think it opened up in like 2001. But I went in there, and I remember they had an American food section.
Awesome.
And they were basically, keep in mind, this was when the conversion rate from pounds to dollars was like double. So if you paid like £5, it was $10. Mm-hmm. And they were charging like $15 for like Fluffernutter and like Aunt Jemima's syrup and shit like that. I'm like, I am not paying fucking $30 for
sugar,
fucking shake and bake fucking shit.
But American cuisine, craft, you understand? Craft.
Yeah, craft singles.
Wow. Well,
we
Travis,
will feed you.
I'm going to say this has been a reflective episode of Roast Mortem. We're reflecting on our own purchasing habits and the things we have now and the things we used to have. The mighty retail store.
Yeah.
Let us only shit on it as much as called for. We don't need to continuously shit on the idea of shopping.
Yeah, you know, I kind of miss them all, to be honest. I miss that smell. The smell of like old hot dogs, bleach. Can we just end the show with like a little bit of vaporwave, just to like, whoa?
Sure. How about this? I'll just start ending the show now, and you and I will talk it out. Thanks for listening,
And we're
everyone.
gonna listen. Enjoy the vaporwave music.
We're gonna talk about the last time we went to the mall together. Travis, when was the last time you've been to a mall?
Last time I went to a mall, not that long ago, I was looking for some men's wear. You know, it's very hard to find ties. Like, not a lot of places sell ties anymore.
The markup on ties is ridiculous.
I know, it's not that much fabric, but
No.
you know what I miss the fact that when you go to a mall now, like, they always have to have, like, classy food. Like, it's still garbage food, but, like, they have Paneras and, like, Starbuckses. Back in the day when you used to go to, like, the mall, you go, like, you used to have, like, Burger King. And,
Yeah,
like,
Roy
shit
Rogers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's what it should be, really.
Yeah.
Because you're in a trash environment. You should be indulging like on that level.
Yeah, we don't need P.F. Chang's. We need Panda Express. You know what I'm saying?
Right. This makes sense. Actually, speaking of Panda Express, I went to Roosevelt Field recently, and
That's a big boy.
It's impressive mall, I will say. But what happened is that I was returning some pants that I bought. I got some Levi's, and the fit was all wrong. So we looked up. There's a Levi's store that calls themselves Roosevelt Field, but it's just in Uniondale, like a mile away.
So it's not even in the mall?
Yeah, so we walked into the mall, and I'm looking around. It's huge, so I find a map in the middle of the place. Well, there's no Levi's store. We've been lied to, so I just drove 40 minutes to Stan. So
Well,
we
was
left.
it in that? Was it in that building that you can see from the train station when you drive through? When you go take the train through, it's like an office building that just has 666 on the top of it.
I was parked facing that direction.
The most badass office building.
Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, you could just have a building called 666, but they put like giant fucking letters on the top, like numbers on the top of that.
Yeah.
666.
giant 666. And either way, and from Dick's, you can see it.
Oh
When you're-
yeah.
When you're in the inside of Dick's,
You're checking out sports socks, and
Yeah.
you see that fucking mark of the beast.
that's right. Always checking out these bicycles. All right. See ya.
That's Malls. Bye.